Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this May 1st, 2017 afternoon. And, Chris, we very rarely do the Monday radio show on Monday. We usually do it on Sunday, but we're actually on time today, which is good because it gives us the ability to actually critique the upcoming big shows coming up this weekend, because they actually, they put the competitor list up on Monday, so we actually know who's competing now, and that's going to be, of course, the Arnold Classic South Africa and the Jim Manion IFBB NPC Pittsburgh Championships. Those are two big shows. We're in the midst of the contest season now, so we're going to start seeing some big guns out there, and we're going to see a lot of new talent emerge. And I'm looking at the competitor list right now. I know we got a lot to talk about today, but I'm looking at the competitor list. There's 12 guys. And I see on that list Juan Morel again. He's been, Juan's amazing because Juan, not only does Juan go to all these shows, like he was in Brazil, he was in New Zealand, he goes all over this. Now he's going to South Africa, but he brings his kid with him too. He brings his wife and his kid with him. My son wouldn't sit on the plane for 30 minutes. He wouldn't make it, And he's going on these 24-hour flights. I don't know how he's doing it.
He's going to rack up the miles for his daughter early.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I wonder if I don't think they give you miles because they don't charge.
That's right. That's right. She's probably still in a lap seat.
Yeah, she's probably still.
They're going to be shocked.
Can you imagine?
When it's like when these two in a year, 2 years, when she's 2 or 3, and they go like, oh, full fare.
Yeah. Did your 3-year-old have to sit on your wife's lap when you guys went to Australia?
Well, yes, but he was only like 17 months then, or whatever. Ooh. A year and a couple months.
How the hell did you do that? That'd be crazy.
I don't know. I slept the whole way.
That's why you're getting divorced next weekend. I said to there was a guy who
look at that's a nervous chuckle.
Yeah. I was in Seattle this past weekend at the Emerald Cup, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but and I got adjusted by this guy, like the rock and roll chiropractor, he calls himself, or something like that. He did a good job, actually. It was a good adjustment. Anyway, but his wife was there, so we were talking about, in the middle of the night. I said, my wife, she just, if my son wakes up, she could put him back to sleep in 2 seconds. If I do it, he'll be up for an hour, And he's like, that's what I told my wife, and she's like giving him dirty looks, like, that's a bullshit excuse. And I'm like, that's what my wife tells me too. But it's true. She's the baby whisperer, my wife. He goes right back to sleep.
Yeah, you want to put a baby to sleep? Put him in maybe not a baby, but like a little small toddler. Put him in the car, drive him around.
Yeah, you could do that, or you can let him play him Sean Ray's radio show, right?
Yeah. Well, that may kill him.
So Juan Morel's on the list. I see Victor Martinez on the list. This is his first show of the year, so he might be fresh, and we don't know what we're going to see. Now, I don't think Victor's been out at the Oxygen Gym, right? He hasn't gone back there.
No, he's been stateside. My understanding is he's in New York, New Jersey.
Yeah, he's stateside. Michael Lockett in the lineup again. I think Lockett can pretty much do he's like Darren Charles. He could just keep doing every show, and he just gets better and better.
Well, he's not going to hold water or fat, that's for sure. No. In other words, I mean, he's either going to stay the same or get better, and most likely get better.
Yeah, probably. Jeff Beckham in the lineup, I see. So he's been improving, every time we see him. There's a Kuwaiti in it, a couple of Kuwaitis. Ibrahim Fahim is in it, and Suleiman El Tarkate. Mm-hmm. So we get to take a look at these guys. Lucas Oslittle coming off that big win at the Arnold, Brazil. Yeah, I know. So let's, if you're a betting man, we got Juan Morel, Victor Martinez, Lucas Oslittle. Those have got to be your top 3 right there. And Jeff Beckham, of course. I don't want to leave him out. Oh, and Johnnie Jackson's in the lineup, but Johnny really didn't do very much at the last show. So I think probably vying for the win would be Juan, Lucas, Victor, and probably Beckham. Who do you like in that lineup? Who do you think shows up in South Africa? Because obviously you got to take into account Victor.
Yeah. It's strange, but you know what? Victor still has the overall tools to win if he's in even good shape. Meaning, his legs aren't what they were, but they're not bad when he's they're good enough, and I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah. They've actually improved a lot, I think.
Yeah, they have. And I don't know what he's going to look like, but he's, it's not like he's beat up. It's not like he's got injuries. It's not like his muscles look flat. It's not like he has a hard time getting lean. He could win the show convincingly.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
Because, you know what,
he'll
have this. You know what he's deadly on? He's deadly on like things like the quarter turn to the right, which just your eyes don't come off him. He's deadly from behind in the lineup. He'll have a great, like, hard to be beat back lat spread. His back double, will probably be challenged by Lucas.
Yeah.
And his most muscular will be challenged by Lucas. But at the end of the day, it'll be like Lucas versus Victor Martinez. In other words, if it's close, most likely you'll not because there's a bias there, but your eyes will stay on the veteran.
Well, structurally, Victor's the best guy up there. Obviously, he's not the youngest guy up there, but he last year he was impressive to me. He could have been harder, but he was very impressive size-wise and shape-wise.
He was huge in New York.
I think that he finally put together 2 years where he had no injuries and no drama in his life, and I think he kind of got – a lot of guys can't do this, but he got back to what he was at. And like I said, if he could just bring that grainy conditioning back, I think he's still a viable guy in the top 10 of the world, I think. It's just we haven't seen the level of conditioning out of him that we've seen when he I dare I say the 2003 Night of Champions when you helped him, but that's really, we haven't seen that. Or even the GNC Show of Strength the year after that. Mm-hmm. So, well, we'll see. I think it's a good prediction. There's a fitness pro also down there with a decent lineup. I thought Regina De Silva said she was retiring after the Arnold. Now I see her in the lineup. Maybe she meant after this year. Maybe this was her last year at the Arnold. Mm-hmm. She's got to be the favorite in that lineup. And then we have a wheelchair division as well. Harold Kelly, who's coming off that 2-time Arnold USA, I guess you could say, win. He's got to be the guy to beat here in South Africa. So they'll be in Johannesburg this weekend, and I guess everything's ahead of day. So probably by Friday we'll know who won already. So
okay. So when is that's right? Is it ahead? So is it? Today is Monday, so it's Tuesday there already.
Yeah. So they're approaching showtime already.
Yeah, prejudge them.
What a crazy flight that is, though. I take my hat off to those guys. I never had to fly that far while I was competing. It's got to be brutal to be on. You got to bring like 24 hours worth of food with you too. On the plane. It's not fun. It's not fun. But well, that's what you got to do if you want to be a pro, right? Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Pro for a second.
The Pittsburgh lineup.
Jim Mannion show. It's going to be stellar. You got a men's physique, 30. Whoa, nope. I take that back. Hold on. Is this all men's physique? It can't be. When I tell you how many men's physique people, you're going to lose your mind. There's 48 men's physique guys competing. Oh no! Excuse me. I'm sorry. The first 32 are classic physique, and then the men's physique is let me see, I'm in there 33. There's quite a bit. There's probably better than the 40. So no, there's about 20. But the classic physique seems to be the thing to do it in Pittsburgh now. That's where Rosh made a name for himself last year. Mm-hmm. And there'll be some new guys trying to make a name for themselves this year. And I'm just looking at I'm scanning the lineup, and there's so many good guys that I can't even make a prediction, to be honest with you. A lot of these guys are new guys trying to establish themselves. I haven't got a heads up. I see Lee Banks is in the lineup, which he looked really good.
How many guys again? Yeah, he looked very
good. 32 classic physique guys. I see a couple bodybuilders switched over.
Wow.
It's gonna be an interesting event here for sure. It's funny. I see a lot of the older time bodybuilders, some of the veteran guys who were in the middleweights and in the welterweights. It's kind of like they have their careers have been reinvigorated now. They have a place to go and a place to compete. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a good event down there. And then of course the men's physique is always very competitive. They have the pro figure, which is every girl who wants to win the Olympia makes a name for herself at the Pittsburgh. So there's a great lineup. I see the number one girl from Puerto Rico. Johnny's always raving about Jessica Padilla is in the lineup. She's got to be considered one of the favorites there. We've got a crazy bikini lineup as well. Once again, everyone who wants to be the next Miss Bikini Olympia is going to be there, posing in front of Jim Mannion. And of course, they can. At the Pittsburgh area, they have the crazy lineup of guest posers. I see Dexter's on there, Sergio, your boy, who, by the way, I'll be interviewing this week. I can't wait for that interview. It's his first interview prior to the New York Pro. Kai Green is going to be up there on stage, so you might not get to see Kai compete this year, but you'll see him up there with all the top guys in Pittsburgh.
What about is Phil there?
Phil will be there. Ruli Winkler, I see. Big Rami will be stateside. Matter of fact, Chris Cormier contacted me. I did a story on Rami on Muscle in the Morning, and Chris Cormier was like, "How come you didn't mention me?" I haven't heard from him in like a year. I said, "Mention you about what?" He's like, "I'm training him now." I said, "He's like, I'm training him at Oxygen Gym, and I'm all the way out there, and I'm doing his posing." I said, "Oh, all right." So we're going to get Chris on the radio, on the TV show this week to talk about what he's doing with Big Rami. He sent me some most muscular shots of Big Rami, and he looks big, thus the name Big Rami. He doesn't look particularly hard or anything like that, but then again, Chris has only been working with him for a week. What's your assessment of the Rami pictures that have been leaked out?
Fatter than he's been.
Yeah, you think he looks fat?
Yeah. He's got rolls on his lower back that he's never had.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? You think they're overfeeding him?
Well, just the strategy is going to try to get him to stand on the scale and get it to the largest number possible, and then bring him back down. And
is that a good strategic?
No.
And I know that you're not his coach, but strategically for the guy who weighs that much, I have to imagine that if you bring him up to 350, that's not probably the healthiest thing for him, and it's probably not going to make it easy getting a guy ripped who has trouble getting ripped.
Well, he was the biggest guy in 2013 at the Olympia. He didn't do well. He looked great. He looked big.
Yeah.
2014, he was the biggest guy. He didn't do well. 2015, he was bigger than ever, and looked like he was 20 pounds out in prejudging. And last year, he had cross-threaded everything. And, granted, in prejudging, he was flat. And, I definitely had him in second in the night show. And, he had the beyond controversial loss to Dexter, which essentially he beat Dexter handily in Spain. You can dissect that show, every angle, every video, every photograph possible. And it's hard to come up with a different conclusion. Wait, hold on. Different conclusion. So he beat Dexter and Roden. Those are the number two guys in the world the last 2 years on the tour. So if the answer is get him up to 390 and try to bring him back to 290, is that a good strategy? No.
How big was he at his biggest that you brought him? That you brought him from?
Well, last year, the year before, he was 340 and in good shape.
Yeah.
Definitely not rolls of fat on the lower back.
Yeah.
Like, that's 8 weeks out from Brazil. That's a definitive.
What do you think he weighs now? What do you think he's weighing?
And I think someone said 340, but we're in May.
You know what the truth is, though? Chris, when was the last scale you saw that you can actually step on and weigh someone who weighs 340?
Well, listen, March of last year, the opposite is March of last year was 260.
Yeah.
Because he had taken off months on end. If you remember that Muscles in the Morning, I think you had commented on how small he was.
Yeah.
So he's certainly not small.
No, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Obviously, he's still got quite a bit of time before the Olympia, but like you had mentioned, it is difficult for Rami to get that grainy, hard look, and I know you worked him really hard last year to get that. I'm assuming that, who's ever doing his diet, I don't know if it's Bader or one of the coaches there, I'm assuming they'll start bringing him down pretty soon because the Olympia will be here before we know it. Also getting up on that stage is Dallas McCarver. I just saw him, believe it or not, this past weekend in the Emerald Cup, and we did a seminar together. Actually, I emceed the seminar that he did, And it was kind of like me interviewing him for basically an hour straight, which in front of the crowd there, and people loved it, and they were asking questions. And I'm trying to get the, I think it was videotaped on an iPhone, but like a good quality, decent quality. If I get that, I'll put that up because I think that was. I actually did my own seminar too for about an hour and a half, which I have on a tape that I don't know if I'm going to put it up yet. I haven't decided. It sounds good, but I don't know. It's an iPhone video. I don't know if I want to put it up. It's a lot of information too. I thought maybe it's too much, but I'll think about putting it up. But the Dallas McCarver is great because I ask him so many questions, and I found out stuff about him that I didn't really even know. How he came up, and this kid was he was a football player, Chris. He was actually only bodybuilding. I think it was a year and a half when he turned pro. Did you know that?
No, it's great. I mean, well, how long could he have been training? How old was he? 20,
he was 21. He was 21 when he turned pro at the North American. He didn't know what he was doing. He said, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to diet. I didn't know how to eat. It was just like I was just faking my way through it, he goes. And so,
He's a damn good faker, dude. He won when he was 21 years old.
He just had once again, genetics are a huge type of thing. And this is a guy you got to remember, he's almost 6'2", or he might even be 6'2". It's hard to look balanced and to turn pro at 21 years old at 6'2", because usually, your legs are too small, or there's always a symmetry issue with the tall guys, and he just doesn't have a problem with that. He reminds me of Paul Dillette almost. Was a tall guy and had great symmetry as well.
Did you see on the site, Dave, the guest posting you posted of Johnnie Jackson?
Yes.
He looks unbelievable.
Yeah, he does look good. He could be a surprise next week
beyond a surprise
in South Africa, without a doubt.
He looks crazy.
Yeah, Johnny is stuck in Puerto Rico. I don't know if you know that they're having a 1-day strike. He's supposed to fly back today on Monday, and the people are actually standing in the road, like you can't get to the airport. Like they're barricading. They only allowed to strike 1 day there, so they're just inconveniencing everyone for 1 day. So I'm hoping he gets out because we got a lot to do this week as far as interviews with people and. Speaking of interviews, well, before I get to all the interviews we're going to do this week, who else is going to be at this? Is Arash? I think Arash is posing too, unless they're just showing him from last year.
No, I don't think he's posing.
He's not posing. Right. Well, it's a pretty damn good lineup: Rulli, Dallas, McCarver, Rami, Phil, Sergio, Kai, and Dexter. How come Rodin's not there? Where's he this weekend?
He's off Caribbean doing something Caribbean style.
Oh, really? Okay, because I would usually you see the top 5, 6 in the world at the Olympia. I mean at the Pittsburgh guest posing.
Yeah, it's gonna be good to see them all on stage.
Yeah. That's
who'll be bigger, Rolly or Rami?
We just said Rami's 340. I don't think anyone's gonna be bigger than Rami there. Although I'd like to see how he looks next to Kai. That might be kind of cool. Who will be the most conditioned? That's the question.
Phil.
You think so?
Phil will. Yeah, Phil's got his mojo. He knows this is the pre-judging.
Well, I think Sergio will probably be in the best shape because he's going to be doing the pro. Yeah. So
I mean, the guys who've done the Olympia was
right. Yeah, it might be Kai. Phil, maybe Kai's dieting for this. You don't know. This could be his Olympia.
Well, Kai is traditionally comes to Pittsburgh looking like he's top 2 in the Olympia anyway.
Exactly.
The question is what's going to happen between May and I know he's not doing the Olympia, but
yeah, he's not doing it. But let's say if Kai wanted to do the Olympia, would they give him the special invite? Or do you think they'd make him do another show?
They would. Look,
would they make him do a show and qualify?
No, they would love to have him in the Olympia.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? They would love to have Kai Green in the Olympia. Holy smokes! Yeah. Listen, can you imagine? Think of the sadness, the level of sadness we're at. Kai Green is going to look crazy at Mannion's guest posing. He doesn't, like probably Phil. Phil probably doesn't like him. They'll both say that they like each other, which is probably not true. But can you imagine the prejudging just starting with Weinberger's voice, Phil and Kai, just for the sake of the drama effect?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, you know what would happen? Those guys, he couldn't do it because you can't fake it because then those guys both would figure out, okay, they made this call for the drama effect, and they played it down. It would still have to come down to the last call of prejudging Kai and Phil, and the audience would just go nuts because the audience knows that they're
the rivalry there.
Yeah, the rivalry that exists, the bad rivalry in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
other words, it's not a Jay Coleman rivalry where they high-five it at the end and hug each other after prejudging.
Well, they like each other now because Kai's not doing the Olympia anymore.
Yeah, of course.
What if Kai's decided, hey, I'm going to do the Olympia? They wouldn't like each other anymore. Believe me.
If news broke tonight, an interview with Kai Green, I'm coming back to the Olympia and I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
I mean, just lay to bed any hype, any excitement running into that show.
That would certainly.
They could up the prize. They could up the prize money. They could up the ticket prices another whatever, and people would still pay it.
Yeah. It would definitely be something that people would want to see for sure. Big Ramy could be the surprise this year, though. Who knows? Maybe he can be the new number 2 guy. We'll see. Or Dexter Jackson took the whole year off. He's primed and ready. I bet he looks really good in Pittsburgh. I guarantee it.
Oh, is Dexter?
Yep, he'll be up on stage.
He'll look the. You know what? Because he can eat anything he wants. I mean, he has no ability to get sloppy, so he'll look the roundest cartoonish.
Yeah,
square inch frame on his. He'll look ridiculous.
The problem is he's not the biggest guy up there, so he'll get lost in the shuffle, so to speak, of mass monsters. I think Ramy will be and Kai will be the fan favorites there, just because they'll be so big. Even though they'll be smooth, or at least Ramy won't be that hard. But it'll be. I guarantee we'll be talking about those two. When it's all said and done. Hopefully, I hope that. How do you think Sergio looks? I mean, if you had to rate him in terms of ability to get on stage, is he ready?
Yeah, I mean, to get on this stage or to get on the New York Pro stage?
Yeah, to get on New York Pro.
He'll be ready. He'll be ready. He'll be ready.
This week, we're also going to be interviewing Nicholas Vuliat. We did a little show last Monday on Vuliat.
Skateboard. The skateboard kid.
Well, let's rehash what happened. At the Charlotte Europa 212 event, which was a super competitive event won by Milan Shadik, and Craig Richardson finished second, and Nicholas Vuliat, the new guy from Switzerland, finished third. One of the freakiest, looking 212 guys we've seen in a while. He had some big lumps on his shoulders, and we pointed it out. And I thought it was. I thought he shouldn't have even been in the top 3, actually. And there's been some pictures that have been popping up around the internet with the big lumps. And you heard a rumor that, or his coach has released some story that it was a skateboarding accident that he had, right? That he has scar tissue in there?
Yeah.
Which is unusual because he's got it on both shoulders. Usually when you fall off a skateboard, you only hit one side, right? I mean, I don't know. It would be kind of hard to fall on both shoulders,
And you got to ask him if he skateboarded off into lumpy delts.
Yeah. Speaking of scars, I was talking to Ed Connors. I know you probably have seen the Ed Connors interview I did, where
I still haven't. Is it
you haven't?
Because,
oh my god!
No, because Jay Cutler was just asking me about Ed Connors.
Yeah,
I was asking Jay about Ed Connors.
Did Jay watch the interview?
No, because I told him
you
he
gotta
didn't.
Tell him to watch it. Ed Connors is the former owner of the Gold's Gym franchise. As a matter of fact, he started Gold's Gym franchises, and he sold the gym a number of years ago to some hotel company. But he founded most of the top guys in our industry. He's at one point or another he had flown them out there, let them stay at his house, and given him carte blanche in the gym. And I was stayed at his house. He gave me carte blanche to the gym as well. My whole career, essentially. And he told some great stories. But one of the stories he was telling us, speaking about scars, was the Ultimate Warrior. He founded the Ultimate Warrior, and he kind of helped him create the character. Matter of fact, he says he actually sent him his first makeup kit, so he can create the persona, the Ultimate Warrior. But there was something that Ed told me that I didn't even know. He was texting back and forth today. Someone, I guess, who's writing a book about the Ultimate Warrior saw the interview and contacted Ed and said, hey, can I come over and I want to get some details that I didn't know. It seems like you have a lot of information. And Ed talked to him for like an hour, he said, gave him information for the new book. And the Ultimate Warrior was a big barroom brawler. I didn't know this. And he had a lot of, he had scars on his arms from fighting, like from beer bottle fights. People would break a beer bottle and then stab each other with it, and he had scars on his arms. So they came up with this gimmick that, if you have noticed, he always used to have to tie. He always had those things tied around his biceps.
Yeah.
I thought he did that just to make his arms look bigger, but Ed said he did it to cover up the scars, and I didn't realize that. But it did a good job. It worked.
Good insight from Ed, huh?
Yeah. Well, Ed was very tight with him, so he knew everything about him, and I think that's why this biographer who was writing about the Ultimate Warrior, chose to contact Ed.
And Ed got Cena into wrestling, right? Didn't you tell me that?
Cena, he got Cena in, and part of the interview also was that how he got Jimmy Quinn. Jimmy Quinn was going to be the tag team partner for the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, he looks just like the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, that's exactly what Ed said, and he said, but
Blackman was in the way to MD to Twin Labs.
Yeah, no,
it's true. He went on to a career with Twin Labs.
Yeah, he did, but what he actually worked in the offices too at Twin Labs. But the interesting thing was that Jimmy, I guess, told Ed, "Look, I'm going to do the North Americans. It's in Las Vegas." I guess Ed flew out there, and he's like, "If I don't turn pro at this show, then I'll go into wrestling." And he, of course, turned pro at that show. And do you know who won the light heavyweight class at that show?
Aaron Baker?
Nope.
No idea.
Steve Stone, the late Steve Stone.
Steve Stone, really? Wow.
That's a good trivia question.
I didn't even know he did win. That's right, he did win the North Americas.
Yeah, they didn't give pro card. They didn't give 16 pro cards back then. Only the overall.
No.
So. But so Jimmy never went into wrestling, and Ultimate Warrior went on to become one of the most popular wrestlers of all time. So pretty interesting when you think about it. But Ed had a lot of Ed told a great story also about how he went to Matarazzo's dad didn't believe the whole bodybuilding thing was for Mike. He figured, look, he's got to work and he's in construction, and Ed flew out for Easter Sunday at Matarazzo's house, and he said, I ate they gave me 14-course Italian meal, could barely move, and he had he convinced Mike's dad that Mike could make money. He goes, and as a matter of fact, he actually said to his dad, I think your son can make about $350,000 a year. And that got his father to say, okay, go do it. But ironically enough, Ed said that Mike had showed him some of his tax returns, I guess, in his heyday years, and he was making over
way
300.
Higher than that.
He was making over 300, yeah. And so Ed really wasn't exaggerating when he told his dad that, all those years ago, before. So I thought that was a cool story. And there's a lot more stories like that, all these insights.
The Ed has to be like a 4-part series, because I thought Wheeler was close with Ed.
Well, he mentioned that him and Wheeler co-owned a condo or something like that in Venice.
I remember that.
Or somewhere around there.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I guess they were letting. Who did he say they were letting someone live there? I don't know if they let. Oh, that's when Jay came out and was staying in the Fleabag Motel, and Ed's like, you got to get out of there, and I think he put him in the condo that him and Wheeler owned.
I told Jay about the Fleabag Hotel, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Someone I knew owned it. Yeah, it was. It was. It was a Fleabag, but you know what, Dave? It was in Santa Monica, and eventually it was this weird Fleabagish hotel.
Yeah.
And the rooms were gigantic. Someone bought it and made it 5-star.
I'm sure that's what they always do. They that's doing in Harlem. Harlem's high class now, in New York City. So so Ed had a lot to do with a lot of people's success, and I hope people really appreciate him and respect what he did, because he did it out of the kindness of his heart. He opened his own bank account up and would send people money and plane tickets and let them stay and buy their food, and he was just a nice guy, and he didn't have to do that. That he didn't ask for anything in return, ever. Which I thought was amazing. I was always, suspicious. I always felt like I was taking advantage of him. So I didn't, I would always never ask him for anything. I don't think I've ever asked him for a penny, and he was generous. He let me stay at his house, and he would let me drive his car and all that stuff. And it was, that was, but I always felt guilty because that wasn't how I brought up. I didn't like to take stuff from people, but he was that's just Ed. That interview was so good that we probably could, like you said, do a 4-part series. But I would love to get the other person I'd love to get, and I know he doesn't want to be interviewed, and I don't know why he doesn't want to be interviewed, because his stories are going to be lost forever, is Bob Grushkin. He's another guy that, man, the stories I can get out of that guy if I ever got him on the TV show.
Well, maybe you can get did you see on my Instagram I ran into Sid Limits? Sid do you know who Sid Limits is?
No.
The photographer?
It sounds familiar.
Yes, you do. Okay, if you go to my Instagram, you'll see Sid Limits. I was coming out of Harvard on Saturday afternoon.
You enrolled.
You're
trying to go back to school?
No, I was kidding and said I was trying to bring Dave Palumbo's guru
course.
Making of a Modern Guru, too. Course to Harvard.
Imagine that.
Nobody attended.
Yeah.
I said that on Instagram, and everyone's like, "You taught that course at Harvard?" People emailing me, "You're teaching at Harvard?" It's like it was meant to be a joke. So I come out of Harvard, and I'm looking for a taxi, and I turn to my right, and the guy's right in my face. He's like, "Hi, Chris." I said, "Hi, Sid."
Oh, you know who it was?
Yeah, of course. Dave, he's been around 30 years. You know exactly who he is.
Is he like? He's like a really creepy looking guy, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know who he is.
And he went, he would talk about Mountain Park and Bob Gruskin and Jay Cutler, and I photographed this guy when he was like 11 years old.
It's funny you ran into him on the street, huh?
Yeah, right on the street. I said, "What are you here for the Cutler?" Because Jay had a show. I said, "You here for the Cutler show?" He said, "No." He was going to something at Harvard, some like photo exhibit. And I said, "I'm teaching a guru course down the street at MIT in a minute."
So did your son enjoy Harvard?
I love Boston.
I know you do. I said, did your son enjoy it?
Oh yeah. We went to Harvard and we went to MIT. And the thing about MIT is, right? You go and you do see kids. My son is 13. You see kids like 15 because they're actually in college at 15.
Really? Wow.
They get little brainchilds.
Yeah.
Logan is, I heard applying.
Yeah, he's applying early. We already paid for his education. If he goes to a Florida school, he's already paid up. We paid him off already.
I got to piggyback off your address. When you start getting mail sent to your home address, then I'm using your home address to get in-state tuition.
That's right. You're going to need that. Oh, my God. It's crazy how much college costs these days.
So I did see Jay on Sunday.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's cool. Did you go to his show, or you just saw him?
No, I didn't go to a show. His show was like an insane success, he told me.
Okay.
And I saw him and had breakfast with him at the Ritz-Carlton. And I think the Celtics were playing the Wizards because people were coming up to the, hey, it's the basketball players, but they were also coming up to Jay, and it's Jay.
Oh, they knew people know who he was?
Yeah, of course.
Anyone recognize you from the radio show?
No, nobody recognized little old me.
Oh man, well, it's really going to be a good week of TV programming because we're going to get Nicholas Vouliat on. Like I said, I want to talk to him about his shoulders and find out the story because everyone's got a story. I don't like talking about people without knowing the backstory. So we'll find out the backstory if it was an accident, if it wasn't an accident. Who knows what the hell went on? But we'll get. Hopefully, his English will be good and we'll be able.
I hope he doesn't take it personally. But from now on, when I see fake shoulders, I'm just going to call it skateboard shoulders.
Skateboard shoulders. There you go. I like it. It's a good excuse.
Not to make fun of him, but just to make fun of the person, because you do see people with they'll have one shoulder and it's like...
Right. Well, we have that guy, Kenny, who the synthol guy we had on the show.
Ask Kenny. Maybe you can get Kenny as a star witness and find out, ask him to call in to question the kid to see if it was a skateboard accident or,
Oh, man. You know who else we're getting on the TV show? This is a surprise. Actually, I have to thank you for this one. Milo Sarshev is going to be staying with...
Oh, God, that'll have to be like a 9-hour show.
Yeah, he's staying with your friend, the good promoter, Subi, in... where's he? In the UK?
England, yes.
So Milos will be there. I guess Milos is allowed in England, which is good. I don't think he's allowed back in the U.S. I'll have to ask him about that. And a lot of people, we haven't talked to Milos in a long time, so I want to find out what's going on, what's his new philosophies, and if he has any new insulin protocols that he can relay to the bodybuilding world, to the Boston Lloyds who'll be watching the TV show. We also have another interesting person on that you'll never. If I told you to guess in a million years, you wouldn't be able to guess. But I'll just tell you who it is. Juan Marquez. Does that name ring a bell?
Oh, what a freak! Of course, best frontal bicep in possible history.
He turned pro.
Juan Marquez he's a Dexter. Had Juan Marquez stayed with it?
Yeah, you're right.
You can ask him. I think had Juan Marquez stayed with it, he would have been a tremendous open pro bodybuilder. And Juan Marquez had the genetics of Dexter Jackson. And Juan Marquez, I saw Juan pose, fat at a pro show. Whatever show I was at, he was in it.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and I just thought, if this guy was in shape, he'd win the show. and he was like 5 feet tall. He's a cross between he's the white version of Marvin Ward and Lee Priest.
Yeah, Lee Priest.
Take those two and you blend them together due to the height and the roundness in the quads and the crazy arms. But his torso is better than Lee Priest. He's got a vacuum and he's got, his lats are lower. He's a freak.
Yeah.
And you know what? I hate that word freak because people go, he's a freak. And I'm saying, well, you know what? I calculate what he uses, for God's sakes. That's freaky. There's a reason. Some people just genetically really do have it. And he's one of the in the last 20 years, he's one of the guys who I think could have really been a tremendous bodybuilder.
The interesting thing was he won the nationals in 1988 at lightweight, which is crazy when you think about it. He also won the World Amateur Championships at lightweight because remember you had to do both, I think, back then, right? You'd win the nationals here, and then you go to the World Amateur Championships, the Mr. Universe, and he won the lightweight there. And he actually did the Olympia in '89. I guess they must have qualified by winning the World Amateur. So he was actually at the end of the '89 Olympia, believe it or not. And he competed in '90, and then he disappeared for 3 years. He came back in '93, '94. He placed top 5 at the Pittsburgh Pro. And remember, there was no 212 class back then. He was 5th at Niagara Falls.
See what I mean? He was getting 5th.
He disappeared after '94, and he did not reemerge till 2002. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember.
At the 2003 Masters Olympia, he was 6th. Then he disappeared again, and we saw him again at the in 2008 at the I think it was the Dallas Europa show. He didn't place in the Open. In 2009, he didn't place either. But then he disappeared again. So I thought he was done because he's one of these guys that just pops up. But he's a freak. You're right. He's a super freak. This guy, and he contacted me out of nowhere. He said, "I want to let you know. That Livroni comeback was a joke. I'm coming back for real." He sent me some videos and some pictures of himself. We'll put them up. And he's like, I'm gonna be the real deal. I'm gonna be better than I was ever in my career. You guys are gonna be freaked out. I have legs. I have this. I have that. And he's got the crazy spiked white hairdo he always had. And so I'm getting him on the TV show this week. So
well, listen, I just said he was one of the best. How old is he though?
55.
I don't know what people think at 55 they can be 35, 30 again. It's just bizarre.
He's willing to put it out there. I want to get it here.
Odd, Dave, is Cheryl Teague's calling in and saying, I'm doing a new spread in Sports Illustrated or Playboy, and I look the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, I like his attitude. I like his energy. So we'll get him on the show. We'll see what he has to say. And
think about that, Dave. If he's placing 5th and he's the shortest guy in the lineup,
oh yeah,
and he's not in tremendous condition,
yeah. And
he's placing 5th in those lineups, which I'm sure are like 40 people deep. Think how good he is.
When he made that comeback, when he came out in 03, in 93, excuse me, he was really good. He was ripped in 93 too. People thought this guy was going to take over the world, and then he just disappeared. Remember, 93, 94, he places top 5, and top 5 at a pro show qualifies you for the Olympia. I don't even think he showed up at the Olympia. And then you don't see this guy again until 02. Think about that. That's 8 years later. Where did he go for those 8 years? He was
I guess you're going to find out.
No, I'm going to ask him. So.
Well, how do you spell his last name? I want to see if I can find pictures.
Marquez.
So you can't even find pictures of him anymore.
I have recent stuff, but I'm sure there's old stuff too. We'll have Johnny pull those up for the TV show. But so we got a full packed week of some crazy interviews. I'm looking forward to, and it should be. Should be interesting as long as Johnny gets back from Puerto Rico. If they let him into the airport there, otherwise we won't be doing anything. So let's take a quick commercial break, Chris. When we come back, I have a lot of ask Chris questions, ask the technician
we'll
questions.
Give it a shot.
Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent pending andro compounds. The most effective hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. In the world. Iron Mag Labs, revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, talking with the technician, Chris Aceto. And we were just talking about Juan Marquez, the freak of freaks, making his comeback. Cormier will be on the radio also this week, talking about Rami, all the way from Kuwait. So I always love talking to Chris. The thing with Chris is you got to know what to ask him. If you don't have any questions prepared or you don't really know what you want to ask him, then you're not going to get anything out of him. But I know exactly what to ask Chris. Believe me.
Well, so. I know what to ask him, but he'll script the answer because he don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Exactly.
Right? I know what you're going to ask him. Right? You're going to ask him a tough question.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask him a lot of questions. I want to see what's going on. Look, Chris has a firsthand. The guys from Oxygen Gym are great. I like them when I see them. We have fun and we kid around. But they don't really give. First of all, they don't speak English that well. They speak English okay, but not that well. So it's very hard for them to convey what's going on a like a truly insightful level. But Chris is there in the midst of it, and he's not competing, so he doesn't have to worry about I don't want to piss Rulli off, or I don't want to piss. He can say whatever he wants, and so
he's not going to say whatever he wants.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, I want to know what the inner workings are over there. I mean, we heard a little bit of it from Rulli, but I want to see what goes on a daily basis there. Does Chris have to wake up early in the morning and meet these guys, or what's Chris's itinerary while he's there? We know he likes to play video games, but he must be doing something all day. And why is he the only one who's able to have access to Rami? That's another question I want to know. Doesn't seem like anyone else is training Rami, just Cormier. Not the usual suspects over there. So we'll see what happens. All right, I want to give you my quote of the week. I have a couple of them actually, but. I think I'm going to use the John Lennon one. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I thought it was great. I've heard it before too, but I liked it, so I figured, you know what, it resonated with me today. Before I give you the quote, I saw a movie on the plane. I haven't really watched movies at all. I don't watch TV at all anymore. I just don't have any time since I moved to Florida. And Johnny told me about this movie called Lion, and so I watched it. It's about a young Indian kid who gets lost. It's a true story, by the way. Gets lost and gets on a train by accident. He was sleeping on a train. It takes him 1,800 kilometers away from his house. Can't find his parents. Goes to an orphanage. Gets adopted by a couple, a very well-to-do couple in Australia, who were looking to adopt, a foreign, someone to give them a better life. He has an awesome life. They flash forward 20 years later, and then he's in a hotel and restaurant. He's actually living in Hobart, Tasmania, which is a little island south of Australia, which I've actually been to, believe it or not, for one day. But I was there, and he is living there, and he starts, people. I guess there's a couple Indian people living there, and they start asking him, where he's from, and he's like, yeah, I don't really know, and I was adopted, when I was younger, and I consider myself Australian now. But anyway, so he starts getting this yearning to find his mother, because he believes that his mother's still there, but he doesn't know how to do it. And they're like, use Google Earth. Google Earth, you can figure out, where you got off the train, how long you knew you were on there for 2 days, but you can figure out how many miles per hour the train goes. So basically, he eventually finds his hometown, and he goes back there and he finds his mom. First of all, I'm watching it on the plane, and I'm a sucker for these type of movies. I was crying the whole movie. I was so embarrassed that people were looking at me because tears were literally pouring down my face. I was like wiping them with paper towels. That's how much tears were coming down my face. It's such a great movie that you got to watch it if you get a chance. You can watch it even with your kids. It's a kids movie even, but it's a real tearjerker. But what a great movie, and it's true. And at the very end of the movie, they actually show the real guy, and they show him bringing his Australian mother back to India to see the real mother, and they're hugging each other and everything. It was a very good feel-good movie. What was the purpose of me telling you that? I don't know. But
you wanted to go hug your son after that, right?
Oh yeah, I couldn't wait to get home, yeah. And I was like, oh, I can't. Never let him go, that kind of thing. It's very, 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 very emotional movie. It's done very well. Whoever did it, I know Nicole Kidman's in the movie. She plays the adopted mother in Australia. But it was really, really well done. At first, I thought I was going to turn it off because it looked a little sad to me, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me get through the first half hour of it, and hopefully it'll get better. But it was just because it's emotional. It's an emotional movie. If you're not in the mood to cry, don't watch the movie. It's not one of those movies. All right. Oh, here's my quote of the week from John Lennon. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. And I told them they didn't understand life. Isn't that a great quote?
Read it again.
When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wrote happy.
Yeah, sure.
They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. And he's right. It's
just brilliant.
Yeah, isn't that good? So simple, but so brilliant. Because after all, if you're not happy, then your life is wasted. If you're just doing something you're miserable doing, then you're wasting your life. That's really what the quote is.
I always tell my kids, do what makes you happy. In other words, great. Because I encourage professions on them. I don't encourage professions on them. I expose them to different alternative professions to what I was never exposed to: architecture, insurance, you name it, finance. I was exposed to nothing.
Right.
That's just the way it was in those days. And they always ask, how much does this profession make? How much do that? And I always say, it doesn't matter what you make. It matters what you like to do.
Right.
Period.
Right. Some people, some people like Jay just like to make money. That right there that's his happiness. So
there's nothing wrong with it.
No. I'm saying if you enjoy making money, then I like making money too, but I don't. That's not my passion. I want the most money of anyone in the world. I want enough money to be able to do what I like to do, but that's not my main goal. Is keep earning. I want to have money so that I don't have to worry about things, but it's not my main passion in life.
Well, worry never goes away. Human beings are hardwired to worry. No matter how even Wayne Dyer, no matter what he would say, that he never worries. Of course he worries.
Of course.
He probably worries that people like his quotes.
Yeah. Who knows what he thought. But I wanted to bring up one more thing before we go to some Ask Dave and Ask Aceto questions. A lot of people have been asking me about the Dave Palumbo Experience app that I have out there, Chris, and it's a great resource that I created with my partners. And it's $29 a month. You can download it at the iPhone store, the Android store, and it's it basically gives you access to all the articles and videos I've ever done, categorized, according to carbs, protein, fats, nutritional supplements, drugs, etc., etc. It's a huge resource. The great thing about it is that everything in there, is true. Okay, whereas the internet, you can Google stuff and you don't know what you're reading, if it's right or it's not right, if it's manufactured. So that's a great thing. We also put up daily workouts. I answer everyone's questions. So there's a feedback tab you can click on, and I answer questions. And the best questions I save for once a week. I do a Q&A video that's only available for the app users. So they get an exclusive Q&A with Dave Palumbo of the best questions that I receive for the week. And I get a lot of good questions. So that's great. Sure. They also get there's a macro finder on there, so you can figure out how many grams of this and grams of that you're eating. and there's all my diets, and it's everything on there essentially. And I'm always adding to it, almost daily. Actually, we always add to it. So it's a dynamic type of an app where it's not just static information. That, you watch it once, you download it, you got it all. It's constantly being updated with new stuff. So I know a lot of people. It's been very, very popular. A lot of people have been purchasing it, and I want to thank the people for supporting it, and keep asking your questions, because that's going to make the app that much better. The more interaction I get from the people on the app, the more I put into it. I think that's a good thing. Also, I want to just announce that the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course that I'm holding at the end of the month on May 27th here in Cape Coral, Florida, I have 2 seats left. So I physically can't fit any more people in the room. That's how popular this one has been. I know people have been waiting. So if you want to,
I taught mine at Harvard, but go ahead.
if you want to sign up for it, it'll be DavePalumbo.com, and we'll do it. I'm going to do another seminar with you somewhere. We're going to do one together. It won't necessarily be the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru, but it's going to be some kind of a seminar. I don't know what we're going to do. I got to come up with a topic. You'll teach. It won't be it won't be 10 hours but it won't be as expensive. It'll be like maybe you talk for 2 hours, I talk for 2 hours, and
I don't know if I can talk for 2 hours.
Oh, I've heard you can talk for 2 hours. You have your, matter of fact, I have that videotaped. You came down and taught my smart class.
I hate talking in front of people.
You were great at it, though. I thought you were going to have a problem, but you really weren't. I know you do seminars all over the world, so you have no problem doing that. People like to hear you talk. They always hear me talk. I talk too much of anything, but anyway. What else did I wanted to mention before we get to the questions? So we have South Africa this weekend, Pittsburgh. I talked about Ed Connors. Let me see if there's anything I forgot. I'm sure there is. Oh, also Don Smith, who is the owner of California Crazy Wear, and was partners with Gary Stridham and Mike Christian for many years. His part 2 interview is up on the website. You won't want to miss that. More stories. If you love the stories from the past, you're going to want to hear this one as well. There's also another person I'm going to be doing an interview with probably in the next coming weeks. Stacy, his name is Stacy. He owns Protan. He started Protan when he was like a teenager, and he's still doing it. And I actually just ran into him out at the Emerald Cup, ironically enough, and we were like, we got to do the interview, because this guy knows all the history of tanning products and all the crazy people and how the people used to tan themselves back in the day. That'll be a great interview, so I'm looking forward to that as well. What else? I'm sure you didn't see it because I were busy all weekend, but you got to watch if anyone out there hasn't seen it, you should go watch the live with interview I did with Michael Anderson. He's the men's physique guy. I know you loved his physique when he was competing. He lost his leg. He had his leg amputated from the knee down, and I did a whole interview. You get the whole story about what happened, why he did it, what precipitated it. And it's a great, very inspirational interview. So I advise you guys to check it out. And that's really it. Let's get to some questions. All right, I got a lot from you. Let me pull them up here. I know I've been saving, because what I do is I get the questions and I just save them. I hit save.
Well,
I was saving all week.
We got to bang them out because I got to get my son to track.
Okay.
Which means
all right.
But
here we go.
Because it's a Monday.
What's up, Dave and Chris? My question for the technician is this. Dave constantly reiterates the first supplements people should take are a high-potency multivitamin, multimineral with chelated minerals, an essential fatty acid supplement, and a high-quality fiber supplement. Do you agree with these, and is there anything else you feel should be included in the basic fundamentals?
No, because they are basic in their fundamentals. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's as easy as that.
Also, when is the best time for a fiber supplement to be used during a contest prep? I'm hesitant to put fiber into my post-workout protein Vitargo shake because I don't want to delay the absorption of the protein. Thanks for the tips.
I would guess before bed. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I do too, but always before bed, and then I do one like in the middle of the day sometime. But yeah, you don't want to don't mix your fiber into a protein shake. It's going to be way too disgusting if you do that. All right, let's see what the next question is. Dear Dave, this show sucks more than Trump's 100 days as a president. Who do you think was a better bodybuilder in their prime, Kevin Levrone or Flex Wheeler?
Well, Kevin won more shows and was more consistent. Boy, that's a tough question. At their very best, I think Flex Wheeler, 93, 96, 98 was just incredibly difficult to beat. And I did see those guys both not at their best, but close to, very good. That's when they did the quarter turns and put a lot of emphasis on the quarter turns.
Right.
Flex in shape at his best is better than Kevin, I think. Arguably, though, people could make the argument both ways. I was there when, in 93, when Flex won the Arnold. I was there in 92 when he won the USA, and him and Cormier pulled me into the into the bathroom to psych me out because I was helping Mike Francois, and it worked perfectly well. I was shocked. The way Flex looked. But I was there at the Night of the Champions when Kevin won the first time, and he was like a rock. I mean, rock hard. So it's hard to say. I think it boils down to personal preferences. You have to put up Flex's unbelievable roundness, shape, and flow versus, at times and at his best with legs, Kevin's rock hard density, and I think the density factor helps him. Yeah. I guess Dave, it would probably boil down to the year of 94 when you could toss a coin when Flex got second and Kevin got first at the Arnold. I actually thought Flex was going to win that.
That was 96, I think, right?
96.
Yeah.
96.
Yeah, but I don't think Flex was at his best at that show.
No, he wasn't, but he was close.
He was coming back, because wasn't he coming back from that neck into car accident or something like that?
No, I think we're talking 94. No, we're starting 94 Arnold. 94 Arnold lineup.
No, because I helped Lavroni in the 96.
Okay, then it was 96.
96
yeah, Kevin.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
You're right. Kevin
looked great. Yeah, he was freaky at that show. You know what the truth is? The two of them they were never both at their best against each other. So
that's why
it's hard to compare. But I think you have to say Flex Wheeler because of the 98, 99 Olympia against Ronnie. I mean, he was hands ahead of everyone. Except Ronnie, of course. But.
Yeah, but in 93 and 96, he had the crazy glutes and hams and Christmas tree.
Yeah. And then he claimed that he couldn't get them anymore. How do you have him when you're young? I'm probably gonna hate me now for saying this, but I always say if you can get cross-striated glutes, at some point in your career, then you can get them again.
Well, I mean, it could have been over dieting. Sometimes when you're young, you can over diet and burn the fat off. When you're older and you over diet, your body doesn't really go where you want it to go.
Yeah, I just think that he was I think a self-proclaimed cheater on his diet, wasn't he? I think he said that he used to cheat all the time. Yeah, I've read that before. All right, next question. Dave, I'd be curious to hear Chris's thoughts on this. Thanks for everything. I hate your content. Chris, my question is on aesthetics. I loved Cedric McMillan's comment when you interviewed him in Ohio. Aesthetics doesn't mean small. When you're building a large yet aesthetic physique like Cedric, is it just genetics or is there a conscious decision when it comes to training style and exercise selection? Even some of the largest guys are still aesthetic, in my opinion, like Rami and Dallas McCarver. Do you think a guy like Ruli Winkler and Branch Warren could have done things differently and produced a more aesthetic physique, or is it just a case of bulldog versus being a bulldog and a Doberman being a Doberman?
No, it's genetics, one, but it's also the way you train. Because if because I've spoken to Cedric about this, and Cedric has said that he can get more out of 11 sets than most people can get out of 30 sets because they're using a lot of leverage, they're cheating. So, he's working the muscle through its full range. Granted, you can work a muscle if you have terrible origins and insertions for your muscle bellies.
Right.
Still work them through the full range and still look the same. So, right. I mean, you have to have the genetic blueprint, but after that, you still have to work with what you have to enhance the genetics that you have. So sure. I think it's, boils down to genetics, but also the way you train the body.
Gotcha. Okay. Last question. Dave and Chris, I hate the show more than Hillary Clinton hates James Comey. 2 questions. Chris, can you tell us some good stories of your interactions with Flex and Cormier in Venice when you lived there in the 90s? And did you ever train with Jay? And in your heyday, will you tell us what a typical Aceto back workout, poundages, rep ranges, exercises, order, et cetera, et cetera?
The best Flex story Cormier ever was Cormier saying, "Hey, man," because I had worked with Cormier
right
when I was in California. And I was, pretty tight with him, and I had a lot of respect for him and still do. And he had to do one of these. It's just what we talked about, 92 USA, or 93. When did Flex win the 93 USA? I had someone.
Wheeler won in 92 or Cormier in 93, I think, right?
Okay, I had someone in that show. And they, I had Cormier in the show, but I had someone else, and they bamboozled me into the bathroom and said, "Can you take a look at Flex? We're not sure if he's looking okay." With Rico McClinton was there too.
Yeah, he probably is the one who came up with that one.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come in," and he stripped down, and I know what Rico's face was like, looking at me like. Dave, I can't finish the sentences how crazy he looked in real life.
Yeah.
And they brought me in there just to give me a hard time. And I just looked at Flex, and everything was
Perfect.
Really perfect. That's the only way to explain the way he looked. He looked so round that, as somebody already around bodybuilding a long time, I thought, how on earth does anyone look that round? I did this. I wonder if he's doing high carbs. I wonder if he's doing low carbs. I wonder if he's doing high protein. I wonder if he did cardio. Like, I left the bathroom like...
like, what is this guy doing? And I'm sure everyone's saying, what does he take?
That's me. I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, I wonder, because it was too early in the craziness, right? Back then it was still a lot of training and diet. Yeah. So that was that Cormier and Wheeler story. Wheeler stories, I can remember being in Prague, and at a restaurant, and Flex came in with a T-shirt that would fit my 3-year-old, but he got into it somehow. And he looked like a walking, talking. He looked like a cartoon. His face, his waist was so small. He was guest posing. His triceps were so big. His pecs were so full. His V-taper was so crazy.
Yeah.
And you don't get that anymore.
No.
Every single person he walked by stopped, gawked, talked to the neighbor, and then he continued down the, you know what I mean? Continued, and Dave, not like some people try to pretend they wouldn't see him, but they'd raise an eyebrow and look at him, and then they'd talk to the neighbor. Look at that guy, he's crazy looking.
Right.
He was like a walking cartoon.
Unbelievable.
And that's why he's got such a, you see guys today, big, this, that, and yeah, they're big, and a lot of people might comment or whatever, but not with that midsection.
Yeah, his waist is just the best. Yeah, the best.
Back workout, just the basics, dude. Everything's basics. Chins, weighted chins, bent over rows, T-bar rows, one-arm deadlift rows. There's nothing else.
Right.
Everything else, is should be kiboshed.
Yep.
You can't angle and rep and angle. You can't angle your way into a back.
No.
And by the way, I keep seeing people do T-bar rows and they're just herking and jerking it. It's like a bicep.
Oh, yeah. It's like I see some of the weight that these guys put on it.
Because Coleman popularized that. He
Yeah.
had a great back, but he'd do the T-bar rows and he'd do them completely wrong. Sorry, but he'd do them totally wrong.
Right. But he did 600 other back exercises at the same time, so it didn't matter if like a couple of them were executed improperly. Something was working. That's crazy. All right. That's all she wrote.
I got track, guys. So
yep.
The homeschooling bus is leaving in 3 minutes.
That's you. You're the bus driver, right?
That's me. Yep.
To the back of the bus. That's the old saying.
I don't do any of the teaching. I just say, you can be a radio host.
That's right.
You can do anything you want to do, so long as you're happy.
Maybe you'll have to send them when they get a little older. You can send them for an internship at the RxMuscle Studios. We can teach them how we do.
Oh, they would love it. They
TV.
would love it.
Yeah, they probably would. All right. Who came out? My friend Joshua Freeman came out yesterday. He was fishing down here in Florida, and he actually fished in my backyard a little bit, but we didn't have bait, so we really didn't catch anything. But he said that we saw some big mouth bass in there, so I have to get a fishing rod. So
kids love that. Logan will love. I enjoy fishing. I just don't do it much.
Yeah, well, it's pretty good. I can do it in my backyard. That was always my dream as a kid. If I can ever fish in my own backyard, and I can actually, I could have done it in my other house too. Actually, then I come to think of it, but
don't forget when you have Cormier on to ask him about the fisherman. Say, how did Chris do with the fisherman last year? That's Ramy.
Yeah.
Ramy's the fisherman. I don't call him the fisherman. Someone else over there calls him the fisherman.
Who calls him the fisherman?
We'll figure it out. Come on, A, B, C, or D, multiple choice.
It's got to be Beta, right?
Yeah. Fisherman.
That's good. I like it. It's like a code name almost, for The fisherman. That's great. That's why I'm dying to interview Rami. I want to ask him about his fishing prowess.
He doesn't do any interviews. Everything's a conjecture and nebulous and cloudy. And
if he wasn't with Flex Magazine, I guarantee you I would get him to the interview with me. I think I can do it. And I think he speaks English well enough now. I got him in the airport that one time, but his English wasn't that great, so I couldn't really ask him the deep, delving questions. But I'll get him one of these days because I know Rami likes this. I know he watches all the pro. He's probably listening to this, I'm sure, as we speak. And one of these days, Rami will be able to interview with us, and we'll get a great interview with him. And it'll be a sit-down interview in our studios here in Florida. So that's my prediction. I might never get the Arnold interview, but I will get the Rami interview at some point, and the Kai Green one. All right, Chris, go enjoy Harvard or wherever you're going, and I'm going to get back to work over here at the RxMuscle Studios. Don't forget, guys, if you want to sign up for the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, you got to check out DavePalumbo.com. Only 2 seats left. For now, though, we're out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.